Hello, it's Nadine, and I'm here with this week's episode of Life, Health, and the Universe. And this week I'm joined by Louise Lyus. Welcome, Louise. Do you prefer
Hi.
Lou?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so from now on she's Lou. Lou Lyus, but we'll just say Lou. And Lou and I are cousins. So this is how we are originally connected. We've known each other for many years, and we've managed to maintain contact by this wonderful thing we call the internet. Since I've lived here for nearly, do I want to say,
A
nearly
long
30
time.
years?
Yeah. Is it?
Shit, yeah. So we've lived a long way away from each other, but anyway. For our listeners, let's do an intro, and I'm basically going to read from your bio that you've included for my new website, which I haven't officially launched. But if you guys are listening out there and you want to check it out, it's Life, Health, and the Universe / podcast. No, at podcast page. I don't know. I don't even know what the URL is. Let's be honest. I'll put it in the notes. I haven't practiced that bit yet. Okay, so enough about that. You can find Louise on the website, but I'm waffling already. Okay, so you're first and foremost, what we're going to be talking about today is your work. You're a Pilates teacher of 11 years. You've got your own studio, but you're also a mum of three, a wife, a mother to two Labradoodles and two farm cats, and you also are a hobby triathlete. It's kind of a, yeah, I don't even know, want to go where, like hobby triathlete. Really? It's not quite the
Just
same as knitting or something, is
basically
it?
means not a very good triathlete.
Not competitive.
Yeah.
Or maybe, I don't know.
Maybe,
So
I don't
you
know about
live in beautiful rural Mid Devon, which is where we grew up. And you are a dendrophile and a thalassophile and a country girl at heart. We'll go into what those words mean later. Your Pilates journey has been one of two halves. You've taught mat classes for years and had a very successful business when you lived in Wiltshire before you moved to Devon in 2016. In 2019, you began a journey of teaching with, is it pronounced Romanas?
Romana. Yeah.
Romana Pilates. And you've apprenticed through the global pandemic and completed your training after 2 years. So we'll be talking all about that. And you've got a beautiful boutique studio in Mid Devon, working from home, raising your children at the same time, and promoting the best comprehensive Pilates in the land. Very good. So we're going to be talking about Pilates. I'm not going to read the rest of the bio. Let's talk. I'm going to talk to you instead of me talking. Um, so welcome. Thank you for joining me. It's
Very
really
lovely to
cool
be
to
here.
have you here. Um, Obviously, because we get to catch up, and the great thing about this 21st century life we have is that we do see each other online, and you kind of get to see what we're doing, what people are doing, but it also means that we can talk to each other right now and in person, kind of in person online. And
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of feels like I saw you just now on the
I know.
internet.
It's really weird because actually we haven't seen each other in person since you were here
That was nearly 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. God, I know. It's been a weird time, hasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to be
Well,
talking all about your work, your life, your journey with Pilates today. And I kind of had a little chuckle to myself because I was like, oh, an hour talking about it, Pilates. And I was like, yep, I reckon that an hour an hour might not even cut it. Um, because I feel like, yeah, you've been on this massive journey, and like it's I'm really looking forward to you being able to share it with us. I'm still talking and haven't really given you a chance to say anything.
Carry on.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to you sharing your journey with us, because it's really easy, especially when you have a business and people see you online, for them to think that you've made it, yeah, and you're doing this amazing work, but you've done a shit ton of work, like, to get to this point. And it hasn't always been easy.
No, and it's been a really long process to get to this point. And as you mentioned, I was a math teacher for years. So for those who don't understand what that means, it means that in this country, especially, and I think probably in Australia as well, but maybe not so much in the States, I think it's a little different there, is that Pilates, when it was brought here, back in the 70s, 80s, maybe 70s, it kind of was broken down into mat and then apparatus teaching. And so a lot of the teacher training in the UK anyway is very mat-based work. And so that's really a lot of the time where people start because of the cost. And also because that's what's accessible for people, because they just need a mat.
Yeah, right.
And you can take the mat wherever you want to go and do Pilates on the mat. So that's what I did for a really long time. And it was, it's great. And it was accessible for people. And I did that for about, I judged the time by the ages of my kids, because I was doing the exams when I was pregnant with the twins. So that was 11 years ago. And those are some of the sort of later mat exams. Some of them I did before that. So yeah, for about 9-10 years, that's what I was doing, solely that.
Oh, wow, just that.
The kids were tiny, so Dan would get home from his day job, and then I would pack up my stuff, hand the kids over, and go to work. And that was my I loved it, because I got out of the bedtime.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
3 under 3.
Yeah, but going to work, like, that's full on, right? Doing it, like, yeah, you kind of, I don't know about you, but I look back and I think, how the hell did I even do that?
I don't know, but at the time it just felt good, because I got energy, and that was important for my health and identity. It was important to not, and I'm not saying just be mum, I think that's a very important role to have, but to just have something else to identify with. And yeah, so that was it. And then we moved to Devon, back to Devon, I should say, in 2016, late 2016, and I did the same thing here for a couple of years, get settled in, taught classes. Actually, I taught them in this room before I had these toys. I just had mats in here, and I taught classes here. Was teaching for my friend Catherine in another studio, and teaching mat there. And then I just got curious about what else is there in this Pilates world that I'm not accessing. And I've done some reformer stuff historically. I'd worked on the reformer before, but just the reformer, nothing else. So then ensued this whole probably year-long process of research into what else is there, where could I train in that, and how much is it going to cost me, how much time is it going to take, for a year. And I went here, there, and everywhere, talking to different training providers, different Pilates teachers that I knew that had done different training, and gradually kind of got all the information together and just like, okay, I need to go here. And that's when I embarked upon this rather epic training journey with Romana's Pilates.
That was
Yeah.
full on. I remember when we were there 5 years ago, we came to stay with you and you telling me about it, and you were like, sometimes you get like you're just in tears from the from the intensity of like going away and like the
Yeah.
teachers being really strict and you feeling like
Yeah.
all of the
Yeah.
things.
It is an intense, it was an intense training.
Yeah.
And I think when you're in it, it feels very different to when you're the other side of it. Definitely you can look back and go and be like, I realized why it was the way it was. And and you look back on it quite, fondly. When you're in it, it's a very different story. But I knew it was the best training because of that, in a way, because it was like, this is going to teach you everything you need to know to be able to teach your clients safely and get the results you want. There's other training, of course, that you can do, which is good, but I just knew from what people had said and my initial experiences with those teachers that this was going to be what I wanted to do. And it was really difficult. I mean, it's traveling up to London every week.
Once a week, was it?
Yeah, 2 days. Yeah.
Holy crap, I didn't realize it was that often.
So it was really difficult, and it was financially difficult. It was emotionally difficult. I'm trying to think how old the kids were.
They wouldn't have
then.
been that old.
Arthur would have been 9, I think. So the twins would have been 6, 7.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult, and I could not have done that without mum, childcare, and then being very supportive and saying, if this is what you want to do, then go and do it.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit. Which changed the whole landscape of training. And I think because the training had been very in person, it had to be in person up to that point. All of a sudden, everything was thrown up in the air. I was like, well, how do we do this now? And how we did it was we did a lot of stuff online. And I'm not just talking now 1-2 days a week. I'm talking every day. We seem to be doing something on Zoom in lockdown. And working and homeschooling, and so I have very good memories of the lockdown, actually, because we live in a really lovely place, and the kids, I think, were maybe the perfect age to not be in school. They didn't, they didn't be in school at that age. Let's face it. And we had amazing weather, which it's not been repeated so far. But we had really good weather, and so actually I was working, teaching, training, learning, homeschooling, and it was all a mad juggle, but actually quite good in some ways. So,
no travel.
No travel, exactly. I was saving some money. And that's when I've got my I borrowed a reformer. I think I borrowed a reformer from my friend Catherine, her studio, because obviously she couldn't open as a studio. And I bought it here, and then I bought some other equipment. And so over that year, I started accumulating bits of apparatus to work on at home. And that was the beginning of the studio here. So in a way, as awful as, COVID was, and, the suffering that went on, I think that was a real turning point for the business. To suddenly have to get apparatus, have to have it, because otherwise, where am I going to practice my trade?
Right. Yeah. Because it's very hands-on in terms of you actually have to be able to do all of the things, right? Compared to like I think it's, as a personal trainer, it's important for us to be able to do all of the things, but there are probably plenty of personal trainers out there who can't do the things. But with Pilates, like, you have to be able to know how to use this equipment properly. And part of, from what I can gather on your Instagram and when you were going to London and doing the in-person stuff, it was very much about your own movement.
Yeah, very much, very much. The first, I mean, even before, to be fair, even before that, you'd start that training program, you're expected to be at a very certain level,
Right.
practice yourself. So, so definitely that's a big element of that training. That's not a big element of all training by all means.
Okay.
It's the same in the PT world. I think you can probably get away. In fact, I know you can get away because I did it for 10 years. Can get away with not being able or not being willing maybe to do certain things, but definitely that training is about your practice, feeling the work in your body, and that doesn't mean that every exercise is not for everybody, therefore every exercise is not for me. There are definitely exercises that are inaccessible maybe just at the moment, but inaccessible, were inaccessible to me then, and some now. But that practice is really important. So, you know, if you're not working out, really, how are you going to understand how the exercise feels, how it's executed, for the people that you're teaching? So that was a really, really big part of the training, and in many ways, for me, the best bits, because I love doing it. So, you know, so that I'm very happy to be working out a lot.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Did you at any point, like, well, firstly, when you were going through this process and you started getting some equipment and it was really to do the training at home, did you have a bigger picture of where this was going to lead you, or has it really just evolved over time? Did you kind of go, I want to get this qualification and then start my own business, or, you know?
I think for me, really, it was about filling in the gaps. Filling in the gaps in my knowledge and understanding of what Pilates is, and I didn't really foresee. I certainly didn't think this space was going to be quite big enough to have every piece of apparatus that a Pilates studio really needs. Because it's not a big, it's not a big room, but actually, as it has evolved, I've realised that actually I do have everything, and it works, and it's great because I'm at home, so it works really well. I'm not paying rent on a studio, which is amazing. So I don't think I really saw before COVID. I don't really think I saw where I was going to be teaching, what it was going to look like. I just wanted to know more. I wanted to experience a little bit more, and yeah, just to learn, really. So no, I think it has just evolved quite organically and gradually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you, when you were going up to London and you were doing all of the stuff, the training, were you worried at any point that you wouldn't pass? Was there like a pass-fail situation going on?
Yeah.
Were they really strict on it, or were they like, you need, these are the things you need to work on?
It's tough. Yeah, no, it's definitely a thing, but I knew that I kind of did know that however long it took, that I would eventually get through it. But it is, it's not the easiest it's not like you pay the money and here's very much no, you have to be a very certain standard of teacher to get through it. But and I don't think I ever doubted myself, because I knew that I wanted it.
Yeah.
So I knew that I would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, tough, but doable. Ultimately.
Done, actually.
Done. Tick.
Done. What does training look like for you and for your clients? Because I am back in the day when I was first studying fitness, I remember going to an expo and trying out like a Pilates reformer, and like I did a Pilates mat class, and I was like, what is this? You know, I was doing strength training and like high intensity cardio. I was like flapping my arms on a mat, and I kind of got the gist of it a bit more with the reformer when I had a go at that. And you know, I've heard, and I feel like it has evolved, like just like you said, it was all mat work, I'm pretty sure, like back then when I first started in the fitness industry. And when I hear people say that they go to Pilates classes now, it's usually with a reformer. So I don't know if they do the full you know, realm of things that you have, like with the apparatus. They maybe some studios do. But what does a typical session look like for you? Because I know that the videos that I've seen that you post on Instagram, like there's a real element of like flexibility, coordination, strength, like all of those things are encompassed, a whole bunch of core control, obviously, with that. What would a session look like?
So the session, I suppose I could just go back very briefly to the mat and the reformer. So the reformer Pilates now is, I mean, that's an explosion of something else. And it's a rabbit hole that I won't go down, because we could just get stuck there for another hour. But Pilates
it's kind of like where Matt was 15 years ago, right? Kind of like that's what people think Pilates is. Yeah.
Maybe it is, and I think a lot of it is exercises on a reformer.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Rather than it being
it's not
the purist. On it. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And it's all good. It's all movement, and people love it, and great. They're moving. I'm happy. Yeah. But
you've worked your ass off for several years, and they're not fucking doing it right.
You do your thing. In the studio, in the Pilates studio, it looks like you have, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of exercises at your disposal, and you have an order of exercises.
Okay.
That has not changed. So Romana was a student of Joseph Pilates. She devised, or I think introduced, basic, intermediate, advanced level exercises. Joseph Pilates did not. He just, you do it or you don't, you know. It was like and so we worked through a basic system of exercises, graduating to an intermediate system of exercises, graduating to an advanced system of exercises, and the different pieces of apparatus. So you've got your reformer and your mat, and you're maybe going to work initially on the reformer because it's very easy to see somebody's alignment because of the shape of the apparatus, you know, to see how they're working, how they're using their muscles, where they're maybe tight, where they're maybe too flexible, maybe where they're weak, whatever. And so it's very easy to see what that body needs from that piece of equipment. The other pieces of equipment, you know, your Cadillac, your barrels, your chairs, one of which I'm using as a chair, are really for honing in on those things that need work. So if somebody, for example, has got tightness somewhere, then you're going to take them to a certain piece of apparatus to work on that tightness. If they need strengthening somewhere, you're going to take them somewhere else. So the reformer and the mat are kind of like your bread and butter, if you like, your kind of you know, the kind of meat of the work, and then the other apparatus just is for their individual needs and requirements. So so an individual session is going to look quite different, even though their reformer might look the same as the person next to them, because you're working through this order of exercises, and you're going to miss some out that aren't suitable for them, for sure. But then you're going to go and you're going to look around the studio and you're going to go, okay, I think we need to do this. This is going to be good for whatever, tight shoulders, stiff lower back, whatever it might be. So it's very individualistic in that aspect. And then you as you get stronger, as the body changes, then you're looking at, different exercises, more advanced exercises. And generally the more advanced exercises are, the choreography is a little bit more complicated, but actually once you've got the strength and the control of your body, those exercises actually are not as hard maybe as they look initially. Yeah. Because you've already got the foundation of the strength. So I would say the more advanced exercises, which are the ones that people always are like, oh, that looks amazing, I want to do it. I want to do that. And you're like, sure, yeah, but let's do this first.
Yeah, let's see if you can touch your toes.
I do always say to clients that if you can find the work in the basic, I always go back to the basic reformers. It will kill me if I'm really working basic. If you can find the work in the basic stuff, then you're probably ready for the other stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because you've got to, it's different almost every time you get on the reformer, your body feels different. There's always something to find, something to work on, something to discover about yourself. So it's a continual learning process, and it's not something that you I don't think you get good at Pilates. I think people would like to get good at Pilates.
Yeah.
I think you get good at it. I think it's a very humbling experience, that there is always something to learn from it. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I mean, we do completely different things. I do CrossFit, but it's the same with that, right? There's a continue. Yeah, you need your bread and butter. You need to be able to squat, body weight. Like, it doesn't matter how strong you are. We still go back to the basics all the time. And there's always something that humbles you. Like, whether it's going faster or moving better, being more efficient, getting stronger. Like, there's always something.
Yeah.
I'm happy sticking with the basics these days, to be honest. Like, I'm not in pursuit of all those fancy things anymore. Why people come? I think that also there's I can't think of the word. People think that when you say that you're going to Pilates, it's because you've had an injury. Yeah, so it's like, but I feel like that's probably changing a little bit now as well.
Yeah, I think as well that has I don't know how it is maybe in Australia. I think it is very similar actually, but I think here you could split Pilates into a couple of different areas really. And clinical Pilates was very big, I think, here in the 90s, clinical, which kind of combined some Pilates exercises on the apparatus, heavily modified, I think, with a physical therapy which I'm not sure how I feel about it, because actually I have lots of clients who have very, very different physical needs, injuries, issues, and actually the exercises, the Pilates exercises actually encompass all of those things. And if they don't, then you leave them out. So I think a lot of people are still, I would say my main referrals are people who have back pain.
Okay.
And so it still has that that kind of characteristic of being known to be safe.
Yes.
And maybe quite gentle and therapeutic, maybe even relaxing. I would go so far as to say that people think that
But then they just have to look at your Instagram feed to know that it's none of those things. No, I'm sure they're therapeutic. Like obviously there's a I'm sure that you know exactly what people need, your clients need, and you know, back injuries are always something that we need to be cautious of. But it would be the reason that it's recommended, I guess, is because there is such a high level of core strength required. And we're not just talking about your abs, but like, well, body control, right? And like body awareness. Well, I would expect anyway that.
Yeah, body awareness and control. Also, the apparatus is very supportive.
Okay.
You're getting on a reformer, and you're starting lying down for a start.
Yeah, sure.
So you've got that support. So I think it definitely has evolved from that. I mean, we know so much more now about pain and back pain specifically, that we know that any exercise is good for back pain.
Yeah.
So I definitely don't advertise or promote myself as somebody who's going to fix anything. Actually, I'm going to make you stronger. I'm going to make you feel better. But certainly, I think any exercise you do is going to help you with back pain, and I definitely advocate in doing anything really. So I do think people still come for that. I think some people still come because for the core, and I think they do mean abs.
Yeah.
And
once they've learned a little, they know that core means a whole bunch of other things too.
Like
everything.
Everything. So, and I think that's it. Maybe a shame in a way that Pilates has this reputation. I want to my core strength. Well, great, but I mean, honestly, it's so much more, you know. And the thing that fascinates me is that we can go through our lives, you know, having a really strong core, but really poor shoulder flexibility, or really poor hip flexibility, or really, you know, or spine flexibility.
Yeah, tight hamstrings.
Right. Yeah. And you're like, but the core's good. You're fine. Actually, I mean, and that's the brilliant thing about Pilates, for me, is that because you can see all of that stuff in somebody's body, and you go, okay, we're gonna work on your hamstrings, or we're gonna work on your tight hip flexors, or no glutes, or whatever it might be, really tight upper back. And I mean, we don't think, when we're thinking, lots of people don't think of their spines having to have a certain amount of movement in them. And quite often they've done core stability stuff before, you know, there's this rigidity to it. And actually, I mean, moving your spine is the most delicious feeling in the world. So it just encompasses every possible aspect of movement in your body.
Yeah.
Fingers, eyes. There's exercises for eyes. It is just encompasses everything. So I think people come very much, going back to your question, sorry.
That's right.
People come for very specific things, and I think if they continue the journey, they realise
there's
that there are
lots
some things
that
actually it's, that's breathing, or actually, being able to move their toes independently of each other, or things that they didn't really think about before. We'll explore a little bit. So I think it's more than what they come for. They leave with more than what they walked in the door.
Let's talking more about the like the injury side of things. And I know you mentioned back specifically, but you had your own personal experience with injury when you were skiing. How long ago was that?
That was 2.5.
2.5 years ago. Okay. Did you had to be airlifted off the slopes or taken down on a sled?
As my children like to recall this, I was put in a body bag and skidooed off the
mountain. Did you tear a cruciate ligament?
So I ruptured my ACL. And damaged my meniscus.
Okay. So what happened following that? Did you have surgery? You didn't have to have surgery.
I didn't have surgery, no. I was offered surgery. So this was a funny time because it was post-COVID. So the NHS was not really in a place to be offering anything.
Sure.
I got a phone call when I had all this wonderful service in France in the hospital there. They were brilliant. Sent me home with some X-rays and said, when you get home, go to the hospital. Like it's that easy here to go to the hospital. So I phoned the doctor, and he. I think I did see a GP actually, and he said, I'll make an urgent referral to the hospital. Well, this was post-COVID, so that urgent referral never materialized into anything. So I ended up actually paying to go and see a knee specialist in a private hospital, and he did the MRI and everything else, and said, I can do surgery if you really want. But given that you've walked in here without a knee brace on, and you can walk back out again without a knee brace on, I wouldn't recommend it. Because the recovery was such a long time. I think he was saying, you wouldn't be able to do, running, cycling, whatever, for 9 months, I think. Which, was, and I was like, oh, okay. That's quite a long time. But
then if you had surgery, it would probably not be much better, would it?
No, it was that with the surgery.
Oh, that was with surgery. Okay.
And he said, given that, how it is, and how, you're not really hobbling around that much, maybe it will get better over time. And so I just did decide to leave it, because the surgery just freaked me out a little bit. And I'd spoken to a couple of people who'd had surgery, and the outcomes didn't seem that great, to be honest. In fact, I think my brother had surgery for the same thing, where they take a piece of the hamstring opposite side, and I think he'd had problems with his hamstring. So I was like, oh, I don't really fancy it. So I just didn't, and then I just thought, well, I'll just see what happens. I'll just do what I can do, and so probably, and actually I saw this video came up not that long ago on my memories of me working out with my knee brace on, doing everything that I could possibly do without disturbing the knee. So keeping the brace on, you know, doing lots of upper body stuff, lots of basically any exercise I could think of that didn't involve bending and straightening my leg. So that's what I did. And very, very quickly, it all got much, much better. I would say within about, well, I tell you, by the July, and it was February that it had happened. July, I was running a 10K race.
Wow.
With no pain. So it's all a mystery in a way to me, and I kind of want to go back and have another MRI and see what the situation is.
But you're not getting any discomfort at all now. Well, it's been a few years.
Like, when people ask, how is your knee, what does it feel like? I'm like, do you know what? It doesn't feel the same as the other one. It doesn't feel the same in that I can't really explain how it feels. It feels almost, feels slightly swollen, to be honest, but that doesn't really restrict the movement. And here I am just sort of bending and straightening just to check. But it doesn't feel the same as the other one. Definitely there's differences in the feeling of it. But interestingly, the muscles on that leg are, you know, they're strong. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed. I feel, you know, I'm always waiting for something to maybe trip it up and see. But we're going skiing again, so
okay, well that will test it. You've given it a fairly good break.
yeah, I know, for 3 years. So yeah,
but I think like you used Pilates a lot, didn't you, in your recovery and your rehab?
Yeah.
So like you're a living testament to your work, really.
Yeah, I think so. And I think and that's what I think people, and I'm not, and I don't want to get it confused with a therapeutic setting, because it's not, it's movement heals, right? Doesn't, in a way, doesn't matter what it is. I don't think. I love Pilates, you love CrossFit, they're both good. They're both going to heal people in different ways, make people stronger, make people more resilient, you know. And I do think that it's not necessarily a therapeutic environment. The way I see the Pilates studio is it's a physical exercise environment, but movement is always going to improve things. It's never going to make things worse.
Yeah. And I think a massive part of it is, like, for all of us, is trusting your own body, isn't it? Like we're not, well, I think you and I are probably, you know, not in the same category as I'm referring to, but many people that we probably both work with don't trust their bodies, or don't know how it should feel, or they're just they can be a bit disconnected. And so, like, if you have an injury like you had, it's like the alarm bells go on and they kind of go, I can't fix myself. Where in fact, you're you putting trust in, I know my body, I know how I move, I know what pain feels like. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the big thing as well. Yeah, is teaching people to be in control of their own body.
Yes.
And giving them
making them feel empowered, really.
It's definitely giving them the authority to make good decisions. So we have a thing, and it's probably a very universal when you're teaching somebody movement or exercise, but at the beginning of a session or beginning of a class, a group class, you know, do what feels good. Don't do what doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
And make that decision. And some people are really like, okay, I'm going to miss this exercise out because it feels horrible today. But some people just are not in that zone. They just can't quite like, no, I'm just going to push through the pain. Why? So I always encourage people to take responsibility for what they're doing and for their body, because ultimately, I mean, don't you want to be responsible for your body?
Yeah,
but
totally.
I think we've spent a long time in the health and fitness industry of taking that away from people and being experts.
Mm.
And I'm the expert of my own body. I'm not the expert of yours.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can tell you what's probably going to feel really good and what is probably going to feel horrible.
Mm.
Tell you that this is going to make you stronger, but if you do it like this, it's probably not going to be as effective. But I'm not the expert. I'm not in your head. I don't know what you're trying to promote with people. Is please take responsibility for this going forward, because we get to a certain point in our lives where things maybe start failing a little bit more frequently, and actually, in this country, and I don't know if it's the same, but there isn't really the facility of the healthcare to help you when you need to fix something in your body. And an example of that is my knee. There wasn't anything that was free. And so you do really, I think, as you get older, especially, you have to really start taking responsibility and making sure that you're doing all that you can to preserve what you have, but also to make things stronger for the future.
Yeah. Is that where so when we were doing our little online chat, like talking about what we were going to talk about, you said maybe we should talk about aging.
Yeah.
Was that the bit?
We're all doing it. It's something we all have in common.
Have you noticed, how old are you? I'm a bit older than you. You're early 40s?
44.
Oh, 44.
Yeah.
That's early 40s.
Yeah, it is.
It's not mid yet.
Yeah.
Have you noticed your body start to change, but also like your desire to do things differently? Like, can you feel things changing when it comes to movement?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm lucky in a way that I have, I suppose I've always had a fairly, I don't know what the word is really, but I've always moved in some way, shape or form. So whether that was gymnastics, horse riding, or I don't know, I wasn't particularly sporty at school, really, a bit of athletics maybe, but certainly as a younger adult, and through my sort of 20s, 30s, I was doing stuff. So I feel like my body, it's okay. It does stuff that I want it to do most of the time. Oh my God, I've got to do more, be stronger, be fitter, be whatever. I don't think it was an age thing particularly. I think I was training quite a lot Pilates wise when I was 40, because that's when I started my
Studies.
apprenticeship.
Yeah.
I started it in 2019, so in 2020 I was 40, and so I was quite like, oh, I feel quite good. Like maybe I could do other things. And actually that was when I entered the first triathlon when I was 40. A friend and I were 40 that year. We're like, oh yeah, let's do a triathlon, why not? So I think as I get older, I get a little bit more like, well, let's just see what this body can do.
Okay.
So I just like to test it out.
It's kind of interesting, isn't it? Because it's like we get there's so much subliminal messaging everywhere about age. Yeah, and like what's old, what's young, what's middle-aged. That it's even if you don't feel bad or feel, like you're getting old or anything like that, I mean, I just occasionally get these little question, should this be, maybe this is going to start hurting kind of thing.
Yeah. You're almost
Should I still
waiting.
be able to do these things?
No.
Is it
Yeah,
okay to do a
you're
handstand when you're 50?
I know, yeah. Well,
Right?
the handstand thing is like that's my kind of weekly ritual. Every week, I'll do a handstand just to test
Just to
it,
make sure I can still do one.
see that I've still got that strength. And I really, there's a couple of things that I would really like to still be able to do.
Forever.
Forever. Yeah. Like I just don't you definitely I have a mindset of move it or lose it. And I see that in people a lot. You get to a certain age. I think as not always a physical thing, but also a psychological thing of confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence to move, and what we were saying about trusting your own body to do things that you want it to
And we
do.
just don't do certain things anymore, right? Well, or we can easily not do certain things, like sit on the floor or get up without using your hands, or stand up to tie your shoelaces, that kind of stuff. Like you just they're things that you can easily lose just because you don't do them anymore.
Yeah, and I'm a big sort of advocate of functional movement as well. And there is a lot of very functional stuff in Pilates. Some of it's not. Some of it is just why do you need to be able to do this? But it's fun. But and I've had a couple of occasions where clients have come in with these shoes, maybe I shouldn't mention the brand, but I will anyway, Skechers, where they have the where they have that the back of the shoe just allows you to kind of slot your foot in and it's like a slip-on
slides.
Yeah, I think it's called something like that anyway. And I'm absolutely horrified by it because I'm like, so you don't have to bend down to put your shoes on,
Right?
But that movement that you've just lost because you haven't got to bend down to put your shoes on, I find that really that fascinating. But
because like there's so many things. It's like flexibility, coordination, like and there's so many there are lots of things that have been invented in this era that are to make things easier. Like I always think reverse cameras in cars, like so we don't have to turn our head. Right? You don't have to turn your head anymore.
Like
things like that.
And I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. I'm sure you are as well. Katie Bowman's work on nutritious movement.
Oh, I haven't heard of her.
Yeah, really good nutritious movement, which I really like that idea of that. Movement snacking and all that. But I always encourage, and that's why I think in a way Pilates encompasses a lot of functional, almost animalistic movement, but also the different body parts. So we're encouraging people to use their fingers. We're gripping, we're holding on to. I'll give you an example of a spring and a handle, holding on, grip strength. All the stuff that is also, very prevalent in other modalities.
And very important. Like they say that grip strength is one of the most important indicators of longevity.
And I tell my clients that all the time. Like, hold that, hold on to that handle.
Grip it hard.
And And I think that's the brilliant thing about the studio, is it has all of those aspects where you can work all of those different things. But you know, like in a gym,
yeah,
as well, working on all of those aspects. So but yeah, I mean, I do practice what I preach, but I really do hope that when I reach 80, 90, that I'm still doing a handstand just to test it out. And I've got some brilliant clients who really defy age in a really, you know, you're like, I mean, I'm terrible at actually aging people. But when I found out last week that one of my clients was 70, and I honestly was like, no, she's not. She can't be 70. But you know, because she moves so well and she's strong and confident. I think confidence is a big thing when it comes to moving. I think it gets lost quite quickly. You only have to have one fall, one slip, trip, and suddenly you're a little bit unsure.
There's that mental, or maybe I shouldn't do that again. Getting old.
Yeah. Which is why I'm going skiing again. Just get back on the horse.
Yeah, totally. We've pretty like we've hit the hour, and so we have talked. Have you got time to go tiny little bit longer?
Yeah, sure.
We have talked for an hour about Pilates. I
Well,
knew it. We'd be able to do that. I had all these other things I was going to talk to you about. We don't need them. That's good. I'd just love to know a little bit about your business, because you live in essentially the middle of nowhere. Nothing's in the middle of nowhere really in England. Like, you're never far from anything.
You live in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, kind of. But there's still, I'm not like outback or anything. But middle of nowhere here for people is like, you know, you don't see another car or house for 3 hours. Yeah. But you do. You're in a small country village, and you've got a thriving business. Like what's the secret behind that? Do you have people coming from far and wide to see you?
I do actually. I mean, it is thriving, but and I have been very lucky, I think, in terms of word of mouth. But also, it seems like it's happened very quickly. But actually, when I think of it now, it's been going for 4 years. The studio as it is now.
Yeah.
So actually, that is quite a long time in terms of
That's
business.
since you've had all of your equipment in there and everything.
Not even all of it. I mean, I didn't have the Cadillac until this year.
Okay.
So I had a couple of reformers and chairs and barrels, and the tower. But yes, this year is when I've had absolutely everything, like a child in a sweet shop. What can I spend my money on? And so it hasn't, you know, it's definitely not been an overnight success, and it's I would say it is a very different landscape. If you were to, you know, I'm thinking of the big studios in London, talking sort of classical Pilates studios. You know, the footfall is massive. They've got big spaces. They're teaching a really wide variety of clients, and it's totally different, and it's a different client base. Really, the majority of my clients are over 50. And people want to do reformer Pilates, but they don't necessarily want to come and actually do Pilates.
Yeah.
because they want that kind of cardio element that Reformed Pilates offers, I think. But they don't want to do the work necessarily, because the work doesn't look that interesting, let's be honest.
Okay.
So it's a very different landscape, but I am lucky in that there aren't me and my friend Catherine, who have studios with classical apparatus, and we are the only people in this not in Devon. There is somebody else in Devon, South Devon, but in this part of Devon, there's nobody else doing it. In a way, you know, that's our market. Is we're the only people offering. I mean, there are lots and lots of Pilates teachers teaching that. But so it hasn't been an overnight success, is what I'm saying, but I think slowly, gradually, and a big part of my passion is really educating people about what this looks like, and what it does, and what it does, to try to just get away from some of the things that I think
people think Pilates is.
Hated it for a long time.
Like me.
When are we doing the relaxation?
And what do you have a vision for the studio as you keep, move forward? Are you just kind of happy letting it tick along, or are you get bigger?
Some days I do have a vision. Some days I have a vision, and some days I'm actually like, do you know what? I think I think when you are passionate about something and you practice something and you do it a lot, some days I have a feeling of, can I just shut the Pilates off for a little bit? Can I just shut the door on it for a little bit? Because I do have other interests. Do you know what I mean? Like I just don't want to think about Pilates today.
Yeah.
So on those days, I'm like, this is my job and this is my life. And I would like sometimes the two not to be quite so intertwined. And other days I love the fact that it kind of flows between. And some days I feel very passionate about making something bigger and better, and in terms of studio space, could I do something else, get a bigger space somewhere? And other days I'm like, why would you do that? Why would you don't pay rent and you're fully booked, so why would you? A little bit like this for me. And I think maybe when the kids are gone, I think maybe I'll do something then. And then I think maybe when the kids are gone, maybe I'll just go traveling around the world.
Leaving your options well and truly open.
Wide open.
I love that. It's so true. It's really easy to just assume that everyone's doing all of the things and that it's amazing. But the truth is that sometimes you don't feel like doing it. And sometimes you love it.
Yeah, and sometimes I desperately do not want to work out. I don't. Sometimes I have that feeling actually in this space when I've been teaching all day, and I really think I should really bust out for myself, and I just can't bear to be in the space because I've been in there for 8 hours, and you're like, I just need to go. So there's definitely that. So it's a fine balance. And I don't know is the answer where this might go in the future. And it's so dependent, isn't it, on what happens, what the kids do, I don't know. But for now it's perfect.
Yeah. Amazing. It's great. I mean, I think when you hear the story behind it and that you've been doing it for so long and you had to go through all the studies and you've obviously moved house, gone through a pandemic, broken your knee, doing all of these things. And you've got this wonderful little business that you're able to have run from home. Like you show persistence, determination, resilience, and obviously a great love for your art. So like it's pretty cool.
Nice.
One closing question. I did ask you offline, but I'm gonna ask for the record here before we say goodbye. Pilates or Pilates? What do you say?
I say Pilates.
Okay.
Pilates. My mum says Pilates.
Yeah, I think maybe it's the older generation. I think it's my parents that say Pilates.
I think the historians would say Pilates.
Pilates. Okay, cool. It's good to have that confirmed. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been great to catch up with you, and
Yeah, nice
keep doing what you're doing.
you and you.
Take care, Lou. Bye for now.
Take care.